Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all. I'm reading in the comments you are saying hi from the UK. You're saying hi from Ohio, from New York City, a Syrian friend. His name is Mar Mustafa. He is originally from Syria, living in New York City. There are people from Scotland. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in from all around the world. I really appreciate you all that you come every day to these live streamings that I put so much effort to prepare for myself to learn and also to share my knowledge with you, because the purpose and the goal of this YouTube channel is to enlighten the people about what's happening around the world and raise awareness about the injustices and also the corruption, the political corruption, especially on a higher level, because we keep focusing on small corruptions in the government affairs, but they are very high or higher corruptions on the level of international politics that we have to address and expose in order to avoid further bloodshed, be it in the Middle East, in Far East Asia, in Ukraine, or even in Latin America, because in the past decades, there were so many also destabilization attempts in Latin America during the Cold War and in the aftermath of the Cold War. So here we are here. I want to say something, guys, at the beginning. Usually there are so many YouTube channels like mine. They host lots of guests, many guests, let's say, per week. And they listen to their perspective. And that's easier for me to do. Like, just write 5-6 questions, host a guest, be silent, listen to him, shake your heads, and that's it. But on this channel, I want to do something a little bit more, and that is myself doing the research and giving you my perspective. And when I feel that there is something that I'm missing and I cannot give you the whole perspective or the wider perspective, or there is someone who knows better than me or more than myself, and there are many people, of course, I would host and pick that person to speak about the particular case. And therefore, on Friday or on Saturday, Daniel McAdams is coming on my show on Syriana Analysis. He's from the Rand Paul or Ron Paul Institute and executive director of the institute. We're having Pepe Escobar in February. And there are other guests also coming in February. I'm scheduling with them on certain topics. Whitney Webb, for example, in February for sure. So stay tuned for that. If you're new, please subscribe. And as we say, enable the notification bell, etc., so that you won't miss it. Today, I'm going to focus on few major events that happened in the past few hours. The first one is South Africa. The government of South Africa expects that the ICJ will issue a provisional measures soon this weekend. Let's see. And the second thing, I'm going to show you a segment of a video that I watched today. I cannot show you all because it's very horrific. And this video emerged from a Gaza Strip where a civilian is raising a white banner and he has been sniped by the Israeli occupation forces and caused an uproar on social media platforms. I'm going to address the psychology behind such killings in the Gaza Strip and what is called the cognitive dissonance, right? And where the Israeli government and the Israelis stand from the psychology of the cognitive dissonance. From these atrocities. What is cognitive dissonance? I'm going to explain it briefly. And then I will show you how the President Biden speech was interrupted a few times by his own fans and his supporters, calling him genocide Biden and calling for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. And also one German official, senior official, a minister, his speech was also interrupted because of the Gaza Strip. And finally, I'm going to analyze for you guys why many European governments fear-mongering and probably psyoping their own people into the belief that Russia will invade European countries and that we are in a situation where it resonates the 1930s, as several European high officials are saying nowadays. Why are they fear-mongering? Is Russia going to invade Europe in the next years? And if it's a psyop, what's the real reason behind it? We're going to address all these issues together. So let's start with the South African case, which, first of all, let me remove this. Yes. So the government of South Africa is expecting that government expects ICJ judgment in genocide case against Israel on Friday. So Friday is in 2 days from now. This is from a South African website. Government expects, let me just check this stuff quickly. Yes, so much better. Government expects the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to hand down judgment on provisional measures sued in South Africa's genocide case against Israel on Friday. News 24 understands that a government delegation has touched down in The Hague in the anticipation of the judgment. So there are government delegation from South Africa at the moment in The Hague, and they are anticipating and expecting a judgment this Friday. Two well-placed sources close to the matter said they were expecting the 17-member bench to deliver its ruling on provisional measures that include ordering Israel to stop military actions in Gaza while the case is being determined. However, the ICJ registrar has yet to issue formal communication on the matter. In its application, South Africa accused Israel of violating the Genocide Convention. Israel has vehemently opposed the case. After the oral submission, ICJ judge President Juan Donog said the court would decide on the matter as soon as possible. So what is the provisional measures, guys? The provisional measures are going to be highly likely that the judges are going to ask Israel to stop its military operation in the Gaza Strip so that the judges can decide if Israel has violated the Genocide Convention, which means a ceasefire agreement has to be established in the Gaza Strip, and this is something that Israel is not going to accept. And why I'm saying that? Because I can judge from the statements of the Israeli officials, and I can also see the military hostilities on the ground in the Gaza Strip. Up until this moment, there were no decreasing of the hostilities, or they didn't go to the second phase as they were promising to start in these days, which is, they say, targeted attacks against Hamas leaders, etc. But nowadays, I'm following the war in the Gaza Strip. I'm following the destruction. I'm following the type of weapons used in the Gaza Strip and the bombardment, and nothing indicates that Israeli side is interested in stopping the hostilities. Therefore, if the ICJ rules that Israel has to stop it, then they will send this issue to the UN Security Council. And in the UN Security Council, of course, United States will veto it. So the United States will stamp itself as officially complicit in a potential genocide. Like, I know that what's happening there amounts to genocide. You know, many international law experts know, humanitarian organizations share the same perspective. But if in the future the ICJ, as a court belonging to the UN, rules that Israel violated the Genocide Convention and the United States vetoed it in the UN Security Council, then United States will be officially considered complicit in genocide, and any other country and government that is aiding the Israeli government, whether by weaponry or any sort of support, including going to the court and supporting Israel legally, they will be considered complicit. And there is an article, I don't remember what the number of the article, but in the UN Security Council, you can activate an article and kick out a member from the UN Security Council if this member is jeopardizing international peace. And in this regard, this could happen with the United States. I don't know if it will happen, but in either case, if the United States uses a veto in the UN Security Council, this will be the end of what is called rules-based order. Everybody will know that there are no rules and there are no system, there is no international law, and nothing applies on the Americans or the Israelis. And if the Americans accept it, which is something that is impossible to happen, accept the rule, then Israel will be convicted of a crime of committing a genocide against the Palestinians. So in either case, I think the result is positive for the Palestinians and for the international public. Now, I watched this video today that I told you also why I'm saying that Israel is, there are no indications. I watched this video today, and so this is from the ITV. They published it today, and this is horrendous. Moment innocent civilian brandishing white flag in Gaza safe zone is shot dead in the street. A group The English-speaking man lamented the fact that having fled Gaza City when this war began, the family were now running away again, this time abandoning Khan Yunis to head to Rafah. Their attempt to escape the war have taken them the top of the Gaza Strip to the bottom. They are among hundreds of thousands of people hemmed in with their backs to the Egyptian border and the IDF bearing down. Nowhere is safe in Gaza, he told cameraman working for ITV, and then he was sniped. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to show you just a few segments in this reportage because there are graphic scenes and I cannot show you guys the graphic scenes, so I will escape the part where there is a graphic scene, but I want you to focus what the guy says and when the sniping happens. So just a second. Yes.
When the war in Gaza is over, and that still seems a long way off, assessments will be made and investigations will begin into how it was conducted by both sides, Hamas and Israel, whether the rules of war were followed. Tonight, News at 10 has evidence of a group of unarmed Palestinians carrying a white flag coming under fire in an area Israeli troops are now trying to capture, having previously declared it a place of safety. One of the group was hit and fatally wounded as our cameraman filmed. The Israel Defense Force had dismissed our evidence. The IDF is not aware of this incident, they told us. But our filming has, however, already raised questions about a possible war crime. What we are about to show is, by its very nature, distressing.
This is the edge of the supposedly safe area called Al-Mawasi that the Israelis have been encouraging Gazan civilians to flee to. These makeshift homes have been vacated because the war is getting closer. The billowing smoke was evidence of the new Israeli offensive in Khan Yunis that has been forcing more families to evacuate and seek safety elsewhere.
No place safety in Gaza. Everywhere you are going, you will find the Israeli army. They are shoot us at home, any building, in the street, everywhere you are. They will give you a chance sometimes, just for 5 minutes, sometimes do not give you any chance to take your clothes, to take your children, to take your family, and to get out of the building. This is our life in Gaza. It's very difficult.
These pictures were filmed by a cameraman working for ITV News in Gaza. As he moved forwards towards the combat zone, he noticed this group of men doing their utmost to appear non-threatening, trying to proceed with care. They wanted to reach 2 other family members and get them out of harm's way.
عند الحجة واخويا وعنده حوالي 50 نازح او 70 نازح موجودين في البيت الثاني اللي يخش علينا اليهود طلعونا واخويا ما طلعوش بدنا نروح يعني نطلع ان شاء الله.
This is the guy who gets shot, by the way.
The interview complete, our cameraman walked away. And then this happened.
They shot him here, so I cannot really show you here what happened, but this is really horrendous. I mean, these people were clearly raising a white flag, and despite that, they were shot by the Israeli occupation forces. And this is the legal opinion about it. Now, the ITV analyzes the legal aspect of this killing.
Well, the Israel Defense Forces assessment of our filming was that it had, they claimed, clearly been edited in the first instance. Of course, they have a duty to investigate the incident. John's been taking a look at it and seeking legal opinion on what it shows, John.
Julie, more than 25,000 deaths have been reported in Gaza since the 7th of October. Mainly civilians, many women and many children. Israel's critics already say that amounts to a war crime. But now just one more killing, this time beneath a white flag, the international symbol of surrender. Is it enough to reach the same damning judgment? A civil rights lawyer who watched our video says it is compelling evidence.
This group of 5 people are unarmed. They don't have any weapons of any kind. They're waving a white flag. They do not present a threat. So to shoot them without warning, just like that, it's an execution.
Now, this is not the first time nor the first war in which.
So it's an execution, according to the human rights lawyer and human rights expert in this regard. And I want to say something about this. The Israeli side say, we don't know what happened. We are now not aware about it. Yeah, this could be some soldier killing. And they do this for sports, for fun. And they've been doing this for decades. I've seen videos after videos after videos. Israeli soldiers and snipers are shooting Palestinians for fun, killing them for fun, and not even for they don't pose any security threat. And now in the Gaza Strip, if you remember a few weeks ago, Israeli forces, they shot and killed some of their own hostages when they were carrying white shirts and white banners, and they were even talking Hebrew and trying to advance because we don't know what happened. They were fighting between Hamas and the Israeli forces, and they were bombing, there were chaos, and apparently some of them, I think there were 3 Israeli hostages or prisoners of war, and they managed to escape the captivity, and they were going to the positions of the IDF in the Gaza Strip, speaking Hebrew, raising the white shirt and the white flag, and despite that, they killed their own hostages, right? Because, and there was a soldier, which I showed you back then, a tweet of him, he exposed his own friends and his own colleagues because he was sick and tired seeing people dying like flies in the Gaza Strip, and said that the Israeli narrative is a lie. I'm there, and the rules of engagement, because Israel said this is not our rules of engagement, and he said that's a lie. I'm there, and I was there on the same hill, and the rule of engagement is any walking and moving soul is a danger, and you have to kill, be it animals or humans or anything. So I truly believe that there is a complete immunity for the Israeli soldiers to commit such crimes, and they will not be held accountable for it, neither in Israel nor in any international court. So why would they not do that? They've been doing this for decades for sports, for fun. And if you don't know about this, guys, check something called Breaking the Bonds. And I think it was during the Second Intifada. Just type in Google, Second Intifada, Breaking the Bonds of Children. And this was an official policy adopted by the Israeli forces to break the bonds of children with rocks so that they would not throw stones on the Israeli occupation forces. So such sadistic things happened, and it's still happening nowadays. And that's why we have to amplify the voices of the Palestinians. But I was trying to see what's the psychology behind this. And today I came across the concept of cognitive dissonance, and I wanted to see what is it first. So cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort that results from holding 2 conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes. People tend to seek consistency in their attitudes and perceptions, so this conflict causes unpleasant feelings of unease or discomfort. The inconsistency between what people believe and how they behave motivates them to engage in actions that will help minimize feelings of discomfort. People attempt to relieve these tensions in different ways, such as by rejecting, explaining away, or avoiding new information. Examples of cognitive dissonance. You want to be healthy, but you don't exercise regularly or eat nutritious diet. You feel guilty as a result. You know that smoking or drinking too much is harmful to your health, but you do it anyway. You rationalize this action by pointing to your high stress levels. By the way, just quickly, I stopped alcohol for good. I don't smoke cigarettes at all nowadays, and I feel great. I've been doing this now for 2 months, and I don't want to go back. I'm living a healthy lifestyle, and I'm very happy about that. But cognitive dissonance. Do the Israelis or the Israeli officials feel any sort of discomfort while they are perpetrating these crimes against the Palestinians? Because previously, for example, there were other examples of countries, nations, people committed genocide, right? Or acts of ethnic cleansing or types of massacres that they themselves probably felt discomfort at a later stage. However, do the Israelis feel that? And I was seeing this brilliant, actually, video This is Peter Joseph. He's describing the psychology behind the cognitive dissonance of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Let's take a look together.
The prior colonial atrocities, the invasions, and all of what's happened in American history, there's been a pace to it. The strategists approach it a certain way, and they create a pacification over time through a kind of incremental process, serving not to agitate the world opinion too quickly. And Israel didn't give a damn to even try. They have done something that is so outrageous. It's interesting too. There's I don't know the word for this, but it's something I monitor in politics. The phenomenon of, well, if you do something wrong, people can be critical of it, but if you do a whole bunch of things wrong, somehow it makes it kind of moot in and of itself. How can you not be sympathetic to the fact that they're amputating children that have been maimed without any anesthesia? Thousands of them. I mean, the death toll is one thing, but the inhumanity of witnessing that people are going to live with this trauma and the mutilation is unbelievable. And you see one case, all it takes is one case. Just think of a child dealing with this, having to get their arm chopped off with no anesthesia after being blown up and having their family killed. That snapshot should be enough to make people burst into tears. No, if you do it to tens of thousands of people, that somehow, as you said, that speaks to another bizarre psychological frame of mind. That I think what it does is people have been groomed into this war mindset, and that people, two big armies go together in this mass atrocity. Somehow, it's just kind of separate in your moral understanding than it is in terms of the actual death toll.
So in previous cases, for example, they were the people who were committing this type of acts, they did it either on stages, different stages. They didn't go all the way from the beginning, and they prepared, let's say, the public opinion or paved the way or found justifications for it, etc., etc. But in this case, according to him, is that the Israeli government doesn't feel any sort of discomfort with what are they doing, and they don't even care about the public opinion, and they jump the fences quickly to the stage of actual committing of a genocide, according to him. And of course, this is not an exclusive thing. That there were so many examples in the past that happened, right? But what is unique is that complete disregard, let's say, to what the public thinks, what the public feels about these cases, and how the public is reacting. Because imagine you are a government in Israel and you represent your nation and you're accused of committing genocide. The court didn't rule yet, but you're accused, right? And you defended yourself in front of a court, and there is a high probability that you would be convicted of committing genocide in the Gaza Strip. And despite that, you didn't change your military tactics, you didn't change your statements, you didn't change your way of handling this crisis, which means and indicates that you don't give a damn about it. You don't feel any discomfort about what you're doing in the Gaza Strip. And this is the point that I wanted to address, which is the psychology behind this type of atrocities that the Israeli side can commit without feeling any discomfort or guilt about it. I mean, I am myself, I'm a third generation survivor of the Armenian genocide. And there are people in Turkey like Erdogan and his allies. They say it never happened and they don't feel guilt about it and they justify it and they say we will do it again. Like they deny it happened, they justify it, and then they say we will do it again. And if you see their narrative, it's crazy. So this type of people, fascistic people, I mean, they're not born into that. They're indoctrinated into that. They're indoctrinated since their childhood. And there's so many ideologies that can make people abandon their humanity, right? And become more monstrous in this regard. And they don't care about the public uproar and the condemnation from most of the governments around the world standing in front of a court, being accused of committing genocide, etc. But now the people are facing politicians everywhere. Like if Joe Biden goes to hold a speech, people are interrupting him, right? And before I show you the video and what happened with Joe Biden, we are around 200 people watching this live streaming, guys. I would really appreciate it if you can hit the like button now while you're watching. It will attract more people to join this live streaming. And when the live streaming is over, more people will see this live streaming on their feed, because YouTube, unfortunately, the algorithm itself, there is an AI that they suppress such content when I speak about Gaza and Palestine, and the channel itself is shadow banned, unfortunately. But Biden was interrupted this week many times, actually, not only once. Biden's abortion rights rally repeatedly interrupted by protesters. The ironic thing is that he was rallying for the right of women for abortion and for her body, her choice. And there are women in the Gaza Strip who are forced, or they're having an abortion cases without any medical care, right? President Joe Biden's big rally Tuesday, marking the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, was thrown off track as protesters scattered throughout the crowd repeatedly interrupted his speech in protest of his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Biden laid out the stakes of the 2024 race, forcefully leaning into the administration's push to protect reproductive freedom as the general election is quickly coming into focus. He shared the stage with Vice President Kamala Harris, with Restore Roe displayed behind them in bold, white letters, and laid out the case that former President Donald Trump was responsible for restricting critical health care access for women. He told the crowd that Trump expects the nation won't hold him responsible for his role in overturning Roe v. Wade. But guess what? Biden said, I'm betting he is wrong. I'm betting you won't forget. But as the president attempted to speak about the Republican Party's plan to further restrict abortion access, he was interrupted every few minutes by protesters chanting Genocide Joe and Ceasefire Now or No Vote. The crowd of Biden's supporters tried drowning them out with chants of 4 more years. This is the video, guys. I wanted to show you. I mean, I at the beginning, of course, a woman was saying how many kids should die for us to call for a ceasefire and Genocide Joe. And then these people behind him are 4 more years, and they say defend choice, etc., etc. And it's truly puzzling. 2 things here. One, that Joe Biden himself, I think he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what the fuck is happening around him, and he doesn't know, like, this is a grandpa abuse, right? Like, this guy has lost his mental capacity. It's the age, khalas, you know. Like, some people can have their mind in control for 80 years. Some people are 90 years. Some people 70 years, and this guy has lost it. It's done, right? He's not in charge. I don't think he's in charge. There are many people behind him giving him all the medications and everything just for him to stand stable like this, steady. Otherwise, the guy is falling every time he's trying to walk a stair or drive a bicycle, right? So what really puzzles me here are 2 things. One, that these people behind him are chanting like robots, right? Like, these people are robots behind him. Like, 4 more years, 4 more years. What do you want 4 more years from Joe Biden? Seriously, guys. Like, don't you have at least some other candidate in the Democratic Party who could replace this guy? I mean, this guy is done. You know, he can't even form 2 sentences coherently. Why would anyone say 4 more years for Joe Biden, even if I'm a Democrat? And secondly, if I support him and I saw him that he's complicit in such horrendous crimes in the Gaza Strip, look at their faces. Who are these people? How dare you to say 4 more years for someone who is complicit in these crimes in other parts of the world? Where is your humanity, right? And these guys are just using this abortion case for electoral for gaining votes, right? the United States is deeply divided between pro and anti-abortion, and he's just like, yeah, I'm pro body choice. But when it came to when we were living the Corona times, people didn't have their choice, right? Your body, my choice back then. That Biden wanted to force them to take an injection against their will. That back then, all these people who are saying now 4 more years, because my body, my choice. Back then, there was no body, my choice. This is really crazy, man. It's sickening, like seeing these people still supporting someone like Joe Biden. He's the worst president in my lifetime. Like worse than George W. Bush, by the way. George W. Bush, at least during his time, the United States was in the peak of its strength. So any empire, when it's in its peak of its strength, they try to project their power, whether through military means or economic means, like soft power or hard power. We know that. And he did what probably many empires do. Other empires resort to, for example, more soft powers than hard powers. George W. Bush was more into hard power. But this guy, the US is on a decline mode, right? And they aren't able to, for example, score a decisive win in Ukraine or fight economically against China. And the BRICS countries are coming together, and more countries from the allies of the United States are joining other economic blocs, diversifying their relationships. The United States is only able to have a hard grip over Europe. All other regions of the world, they are seeking for independent foreign policy, economic policy. India is seeking for independent foreign policy, right? So, yeah, but Joe Biden, he opened a new front against Russia in Ukraine, and he's again waging an economic war against China. And now in the Middle East, he's bombing Yemen, he's bombing Iraq, he's bombing Syria, and he's aiding Israel in its atrocities in the Gaza Strip. Another official was interrupted this week, a German official this time, and he's the Minister of Justice. And this is what happened.
International law is being flagrantly broken by a country that your government supports and arms. 25,000 a day.
Ladies and gentlemen, a great motto has figured prominently.
Excuse me, Mr. Bashman, I don't think that it's appropriate for you to be talking about liberty and about law in this country, because your country right now is banning pro-Palestine protests all over the place.
You come here to talk about liberty and justice. What about liberty and justice for the children of Gaza? 10,000 children a day. What about liberty and justice for them? Will you condemn Israel? Will you condemn them for the indiscriminate murder?
60% of the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed. There's not a single person in hospital left. More than 55% of people are starving. There are now reports that they are starting to eating pet food in order to survive. Your government has a responsibility.
Are you not willing to accept one argument by which
let me ask have to share it, but that's my argument.
You don't have to share it, but that's my argument. Imagine that there is a federal state, because Germany has 16 federal states, right? It's a federal country. And in one of the federal states, if you want to become a German, and there are preconditions, right? You have to be living in Germany, let's say 5 to 7 years. You have to know German. You have to have the certificate. You have to be paying taxes so that you have a job, and you're affording your own living, right? And other integration course, politic course, etc., etc. And above that, they're now asking the people to sign a paper in one federal state that you recognize the right of Israel to exist. So this is targeted against the Arabic people, right? Or the Palestinian people, or any other people who support Palestine in this regard. I mean, people have the right to stay and to exist. Countries come and go, right? And no country stayed forever in the history. I don't know why would anyone sign on a paper, on a document, assuring that this one particular country will continue to exist forever. Anyways. Yeah, this is the hypocrisy and the double standards, right, of these politicians who preach about justice, preach about freedoms, preach about human rights, but then when it comes to the Palestinians, they completely disregard it. So I truly believe, guys, if you are in any European and American country or in anywhere around the world, wherever you see politicians who are complicit or justifying what's happening in the Gaza Strip, you have to face them respectfully, like these people, raise a banner and tell them your opinion and corner them, make them feel uncomfortable, And I know that they're not going to change their policy, but such videos can shape public opinion, and it also shows the hypocrisy of these politicians, because the credibility of the politicians, they care about their credibility and their image and all these things. So it's very important to make them feel uncomfortable in this regard. And I was just for fun, I'm going to show you a video that I watched today, and this is the most hilarious Freudian slip that I've seen for a long time after George W. Bush's Freudian slip. And you take a look. I will repeat it 2 times so that we check it.
And I would like to use the rest of my time to say how appalled I am that people are bringing up the Holocaust. Do not use other genocides to describe this one. I have been... And I would like to use the rest of my time to say how appalled I am that people are bringing up the Holocaust. Do not use other genocides to describe this one. I have been...
So guys, don't bring other genocides to and compare it to this one. So she's she's accepting that what's happening in the Gaza Strip is a genocide, and she was warned by her colleagues upstairs, like, what the fuck you're doing? And she was like, oh my God. Yeah, like they know it, deep inside they know it, and probably they're feeling, some of them are feeling uncomfortable, but many of them are making justifications about it. And now let's move to what's happening in Ukraine or in Europe in general. And the European leaders are fear-mongering and probably psyoping against their people. And on top of them is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who positioned himself as a war hawk loyal to Washington because he is bidding that he will get a top job in NATO after Stoltenberg. So what did the Dutch media say about this case? Why is Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Holland, is standing with Israel unconditionally in this regard? I tried to summarize it. The summary is gone. Anyways, I have it here. Don't worry. So, according to this article, the Prime Minister Rutte, Rutte's interference goes so far that politically unwelcome information, such as possible violations of humanitarian law by Israel, is swept under the carpet, because Prime Minister Rutte's career plays a major role in the background. This summer, Rutte wants to succeed Jens Stoltenberg as Secretary General of NATO, and although the European allies certainly have a say in this, one vote is decisive, that of the White House. According to officials, the Foreign Office is doing everything it can to get Rutte the NATO job. This fits in with the policy of getting Dutch people into top international positions. Last week, the Netherlands was the only EU country on a list of allies involved in the attack on Houthi rebels in Yemen by the US and the UK. So, according to the Dutch reports, Mark Rutte, he wants to become the next NATO Secretary General. So he is making himself the lapdog of the United States, right? And also supporting Israel unconditionally. He was the only European country who participated in the bombing of the Yemenis last week, and he is giving his unconditional support to the Israelis and what they're doing in the Gaza Strip, because he's eyeing on a position to become the next Secretary General of NATO. And I told you this many times, guys, on Syriana Analysis. Don't underestimate the personal aspirations of these people to either continue in a position of power, whether it's a prime ministership or a president or foreign ministry or anything, right, in their governments, or probably an upgrade. And many of these politicians that they preach about human rights to you, they just have an aspiration to become to get a better job. And when their prime ministership is over, then they want to become something else. They want to continue having the cash flow, right? And when you're used to be in a position of power, and when you're used into certain lifestyle, you don't want to downgrade again. So these people, of course, think about these things, and they take their personal aspirations into consideration. Mark Rutte is a very corrupted person. He supported terrorist groups in Syria. including a group called Jabhat al-Shamiyya. And this group was, he sent a lethal and non-lethal aid to this group, to Syria, I think around 80 to 90 million euros. And this group is considered a terrorist group by the Dutch government. So the Dutch government and the Justice, Ministry of Justice and the Intelligence in the Netherlands, they labeled this group a terrorist group. And Mark Rutte was supporting this group in Syria, and he gave them laptops, he gave them pickup trucks, he gave them satellite phones. So he actually supported the terrorist group. And I think then he perfectly fits to become a Secretary General of NATO in the future. And now this fear-mongering continues, and Russia is going to invade Europe. So Sweden applied to join NATO. And after decades of neutrality, and the Turkish parliament has given its long-awaited approval to Sweden's membership of NATO, bringing the Nordic countries significantly closer to joining the Western military alliance after months in limbo. 3 months after Erdogan, the Turkish president submitted a bill on approving membership to parliament. MPs voted in favor of ratifying it late on Tuesday night. NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg welcomed the vote, saying he expected Hungary to ratify Sweden as soon as possible. He added, Sweden's membership makes NATO stronger and us all safer. Turkey's approval leaves Hungary as the only country still to ratify Swedish membership. Earlier on Tuesday, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hinted at progress by inviting Kristersson to visit for negotiations on the question. So Sweden joined. Finland is making another noise from the other side of the border. I hope the article opens. Okay, temporarily unavailable. Now that you try to access the Finland doesn't feel. Let's see. Yeah, the article is, the page are trying temporarily unavailable. Okay. It seems that they removed the article from the website. Anyways, so Finland is making another noise, and they say that they're ready for any sort of invasion from the Russian side, and they are not afraid, and they're ready to defend themselves. And making noise about the importance of NATO and living the neutrality, decades-long neutrality. Unfortunately speaking, this is a thing that the Russians have to be concerned about. And now, after the offensive against Ukraine, I think they lost 2 important countries bordering Russia, Finland and Sweden, who were neutral. And now they're no more neutral if they join NATO. Now Russia has to increase its expenditure, military expenditure, and its defense lines and the borders between Sweden and Finland, etc., etc. And I think this is something that the one of the points that NATO scored against Russia in this regard. I know that Finland and Sweden don't have strong armies, but as long as they are a NATO member, there will be American weaponry, American probably strategic weaponry on the soil of these countries, and this will pose, Russians will say that this is going to pose a threat on us, and the situation will deteriorate between Russia and these Nordic countries. But as I told you, the fear-mongering continues, not only in Sweden, not only in Finland, but also by the UK. Public face call up if we go to war, military chief warns. The British public will be called up to fight if the UK goes to war because the military is too small. The head of the army is to warn. General Sir Patrick Sanders will stress the need for the government to mobilize the nation in the event of war with Russia in a speech on Wednesday. It comes after a senior NATO military official warned that private citizens should prepare for an all-out war with Russia in the next 20 years, which would require wholesale change in their lives. The army chief would not support conscription, it is understood, but believes there should be a shift in the mindset of regular British people. I think this is the point. They want to change the psychology of the people and the way they want the people not to feel secure anymore, that they are under imminent threat. This is what he is indicating, that there has to be a shift in the mindset of regular British people, where they think more like troops who are mentally prepared that war with Russia could happen. See? In 2022, General Sir Patrick used a speech to warn that the UK was facing its 1937 moment over the war in Ukraine and said Britain must be ready to fight and win to ward off the threat from Russia. He said, "This is our 1937 moment. We are not at war, but must act rapidly so that we aren't drawn into one through a failure to contain territorial expansion." On Tuesday, the chief of Norway's armed forces said the country must increase defense spending in the face of a potential war with Russia within 3 years, following its neighbor Sweden in urging citizens to brace conflict. So, this is the statement of General Sir Patrick Sanders on Sky News.
Very serendipitous, because somebody who you'll know well, General Sir Patrick Sanders, I'm not sure if you served with him, but certainly you have served, you did. So he's suggesting, reading between the lines in the Telegraph today, that if we go to war with Russia, we could find that our youth may have to be conscripted. That's a bit alarming.
Yes, head of the British Army, one of the most cerebral thinkers that we've got, a strategist. We need to listen and listen carefully. We've been too complacent. I think I've said this many times with you. What's coming over the horizon should shock us. It should worry us, and we are not prepared. We've had a couple of decades, 3 decades or so since the Cold War. Life has gone well. It's now going to get more difficult as authoritarian states exploit our timidity, our perhaps reluctance to really put fires out. And the best example of that is a democracy on the corner of Eastern Europe that in its 3rd year is now in conflict, and we've not resolved that. So Patrick Saunders is saying, prepare for what's coming over the horizon. There is a 1939 feel to the world right now. These authoritarian states are rearming. There's a risk averseness about the West in wanting to deal with that. And institutions, global institutions such as the United Nations, aren't able to hold these errant nations to account. In fact, the UN, I'd go further, is reaching its League of Nations moment unless it's reformed. So that's where the world is heading. We need to wake up to that. There's a mindset now of this era of insecurity that we're heading towards, but we're still on a peacetime defense budget of just 2%. That does need to change. And the Red Sea is a great example that if you don't step forward, if you're not robust in dealing with those that are testing the envelope, it will be our weakness will be exploited, and it will affect our economy.
So, guys, if you are a British, you have to worry. You have to worry about the future, and you have to worry about your security, and you have to be ready. And they have to spend more money on their armies so that they pocket more money, because there is an imminent threat coming from Russia. And after 3 years of selling the narrative that Russia will lose the war and Ukraine can win this war, and now they say this almighty army of Russia is going to walk through the European countries and is going to occupy all of European countries, so they have to spend more money on their defense budgets. I think the future in Europe is bleak, is dark, unfortunately. With these elites are going to militarize the countries. They're going to spend more money on the defense, not because there is going to be an invasion from the Russian side, and I'm going to address that at the end of this video, but in any case, I'm going to say because they're preparing for the downfall of Ukraine. And I think Ukraine has reached to a point where the downfall has accelerated, and they have to secure the western side and probably include it into other countries such as Hungary and Romania. They're going to need lots of military might and power and soldiers probably to secure this western part of Ukraine and integrate it into other countries. I think this is why they are fear-mongering nowadays. And also one of the other reasons is to encourage and sell the narrative that more countries have to join NATO. I mean, it's not a coincidence. I showed you all these articles about the fear-mongering as I told you. And then you have this article, it says, countdown to conflict with Putin. Norway's defense chief becomes latest military figure to warn Europe, has 3 years to prepare for war with Russia. See, another article comes here. He says, Germany is preparing for Putin attack against NATO. Just a second, let me close this. Yeah. Germany is preparing for Putin attack against NATO in 2025. Leaked secret plans reveal step by step how Russia will escalate conflict to all-out war in 18 months. Germany, Norway, Sweden, Finland, UK, military experts in the news to the Newsweek, they say Europe must prepare for war with Russia. Those are the military experts that were wrong on every other issue, right? So this is the military experts are warning to the Newsweek that there's going to be war with Russia. They say British Army veteran Robert Clark issued a stern warning for the United Kingdom and Europe in a recent column published by The Telegraph. Clark, who served in the military for 15 years, wrote that Great Britain needs to rethink its dependence on the United States to aid in any future defense against Russia on the European mainland. So UK is going to lead this defense alliance in Europe against Russia. And the real reason, I think, was explained by Scott Ritter, and I think he is correct in his analysis in this regard. And I think that many people who were wrong on the Ukraine case, he proved to be more correct on this case, right? And I think what he says here, it's just food for the thought. Listen to him. Read the description or the captions and make up your mind, guys.
These grifters, these, they're professionals who know better. I can guarantee you that Ben Hodges knows about correlation of forces. He's not stupid. He knows that the Ukrainians are burning through material and manpower at a rate that far exceeds their ability to replenish. He knows that as a military officer, so he knows that Ukraine is getting weaker every day. He knows that Russia, whether he likes them or not, is getting stronger. 1,500 volunteers a day for the front, 450 plus thousand volunteers in total, in addition to 300,000 mobilized, in addition to the expansion of the military that's taking place, a revitalized defense industry that's producing modern equipment at production rates that the West can't even imagine. Russia's getting stronger. So basic military math tells you that the outcome is inevitable, a decisive Ukrainian defeat. A military professional knows this. Ben Hodges used to be a military professional. He knows what the truth is, but he's a grifter. He wants clicks. He needs that CNN supplemental income. He needs appearances. And the thing about the CNN and MSNBC is that once you're in the system, they'll allow you to become the chameleon. Mark my words. Mark my words. This summer, Ben Hodges will be talking about the successful Russian offensive, how the Russian military has been revitalized, not because, again, he's supporting Russia, but there will be a new mission to exaggerate the Russian threat to justify a new expanded NATO that must stand up and arm itself against this giant Russian military that's unstoppable. Today he's saying that the Russians can't do anything right. By summer, he'll have changed his tune. It's not because he's a professional analyst, because he's a grifter, because his master said we have a different script we have to act on now.
Yeah, I think the script at the beginning was Ukraine will win this war and they will support Ukraine as long as it takes. They had high hopes and they were proven to be wrong. And then they started saying that there is a stalemate in Ukraine and that the Russians are incapable of advancing more in the Ukrainian territories. And now they are in a situation that the reality hits and they see that the Russians are mobilizing 1,500 new soldiers every day and they're going to send them to the front lines, and they are highly likely preparing for a spring offensive against the Ukrainian forces. And if Russia captures all of Donbass and they capture to Odessa, then I think this will be a decisive collapse or decisive defeat for Ukraine, and it will lead to the collapse of Ukraine. And then these NATO powers, strong powers that they are mobilizing, and they're asking their people to prepare themselves for war, they will change their narrative, and they will say that this Russian army that we were sure that they will be defeated just a few months ago, now this army poses an existential threat against all of the European continent. Therefore, we have to act, and we have to mobilize, and we have to invite more countries to NATO. And that's how also we have to spend more money on our defense budget, which means this is coming from the pockets of the people, more taxes, more inflation, and the people, in my opinion, will live some hard times. Unfortunately for the ordinary European people, this is just my expectations and analysis. Take it or leave it, and we will see. Right, in the near future, what's going to happen. I hope not. I hope that the situation would stay calm and peaceful, but with these political elites, I truly believe that they are going to militarize their systems and their countries and their people, and they're going to keep them on a high alarm, saying that there is an imminent threat, so they have to spend more money, and there will be more dystopian laws. And if you disagree with the government, you will be persecuted, and you will stand in front of a court probably, and you will be accused of treason your country. So guys, thank you very much for watching today's live streaming. I appreciate you all. Please, before leaving this live streaming, if you can please hit the like button before leaving. That I really appreciate that when you do. And if you like to support my independent work like this one I'm doing, you can support my work on Patreon, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. And I will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central European Time. Salam.